when we lose friends, families, and neighbors, that makes this disaster a tragic disaster. So our prayers go to the loved ones, the families, and to the lost there. As part of our trying to determine the scope of the humanitarian part of this crisis, we know that there are missing. We have partnered with Director David Roush in the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, who is also being supported by the Tennessee Highway Patrol, the Tennessee Department of Health, to help find the missing. So the line for those that are either think they might be in that population of missing, or for those seeking to find information on a loved one, is 1-800-TBI-FIND. We broadcasted that on our social media channels. You've gotten releases saying that same thing, but I want to emphasize that as we try to figure out the exact population that we're concerned with trying to find and resource, and then it'll help us do a more fine-tuned search and rescue operation, search and find operation in the hours and days ahead. We know that 400 boots are on the ground assessing transportation infrastructure right now. That's just from the Tennessee Department of Transportation. We know that the county road crews, city road crews are out there evaluating that as well. There are hundreds of bridges that were impacted by this flooding. Scores of them are destroyed or have significant damage that renders them unusable right now. I know that Deputy Governor Ely, the Commissioner of Transportation, and his staff are in East Tennessee right now evaluating this damage and rapidly working to assess, and then those that can be brought back online, work to bring those back online, working with our local partners. 14 state bridges are closed, 5 are destroyed, and those numbers may increase as we get better fidelity information. As of noon, so as of 37 minutes ago, we're down to 11,613 homes, businesses, connections that are without power. That's down from a peak of more than 100,000. Those reports are Washington and Sullivan County have the most outages still. Carter and Unicoi counties numbers are not included in this figure, and so we could see that power outage number increase. The number one concern for me and the agency right now, after taking care of disaster survivors in terms of infrastructure, is the damage to the public drinking water infrastructure. There are 13 utilities that have public water systems that have reported problems, some of them very significant and complex problems. 2 of those have destroyed and inoperable water intakes from their bodies of water. We are working with FEMA, we're working with TDEC, we're working with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and other utility partners to develop rapid solutions that can get there and get water systems restored. Concurrent with that, we're moving as much bottled water as we can store in those areas into those communities right now. So we're working with our county emergency management agencies to find locations where we can push water, store water, and get their points of distribution set up. We'll be working today and in the future also to help augment efforts to get water to those areas that are unreachable. The National Guard has been airlifting water to those that we suspect are stranded since Saturday. So cases of water have been dropped to places, and food have been dropped to places in Carter County and in some other areas. It's hard to see the boundaries on the line there, but those that we think have been isolated, we've been working to address that already. We have scores of requests for water, and we're working those rapidly using procurement, private sector partners, and donations. We're working on standing up a bigger logistics capability out there to help support a sustained effort around this for the next several days and potentially weeks or months. Affected counties have set up donation locations. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but you can find them on our website and in the briefings that we've gotten. TEMA personnel and National Guardsmen are helping get donations, those locations organized and support them. So there are drop locations located in Carter County for individuals who cannot leave their, those donation sites are on our website, and they are tailored to what they're asking for. So the impetus after a disaster is for folks to donate things. What we had yesterday and really over the course of the weekend is a lot of well-meaning folks traveling on roads, getting turned around by troopers and TDOT who are out there trying to keep people from driving on roads that are damaged, destroyed, unsafe, impassable. And they're getting turned around because there's no place for them to go on the route they're going. Because, again, the catastrophic flooding has damaged these roads. So we'll have opportunities for those folks to go to donations. Again, they're on our website and they're tailored. We know that there's going to be a tremendous outpouring of volunteer support. At this moment, people showing up is not helpful unless they're being asked for, or they're affiliated with a volunteer organization that is part of this fight to get services restored and life safety measures in place. There'll be lots of opportunities to volunteer, not just today, not just tomorrow, but for a long time. Flood recovery of this sort is a long, hard process, especially when we see the level of infrastructure damage that we've seen. For context for you, we still are doing disaster recovery things from the great 2010 flood of Tennessee. So 14 and a half years ago, this kind of flooding, and this was much faster moving with a lot more hard-hitting debris. We know there's a long road ahead. So we're doing everything we can right now, and we'll continue to do that to get resources out there. The National Guard and TEMA have been on the ground since before the Nolichucky left its banks, helping to support evacuating the Unicoi County Hospital. Thankfully, we were able to use mutual aid and get the first helicopters that could get there because of weather conditions were from the Virginia State Police. Using mutual aid, those state policemen there were able to help rescue 59 people from the rooftop and around the hospital there. The Tennessee National Guard and Tennessee Highway Patrol were also engaged in that fight to save those lives and get those folks to safety. This is going to be a long haul, and people are going to be frustrated and things are going to seem slow, and sometimes they are going to be slow. But we're doing everything we can to rapidly get resources there to support these communities and to make sure that we are stabilizing infrastructure. So we're getting bottled water, tarps, water for sanitary use, and meals and logistics equipment out into those areas now. We have more than 100 National Guardsmen that are either there or are moving that way to help with both logistics missions and with debris. And with that, I think we'll go to the questions that we've received.
The first question we received from WKRN is, what's the biggest challenge TEMA is currently facing while responding to the flooding aftermath?
Yeah, I don't think this isn't a single thing. This is communications infrastructure is impacted. AT&T lost some buildings out there that are the backhaul for a lot of wireless communications. Wireless communications in East Tennessee, Western North Carolina, in the Appalachian Mountains. If you've been there, if you vacation there, you know that your cell phone signals are not a given thing on the best looking day. This makes it much worse and much harder. Folks just don't have landlines anymore. I'm not sure what good landlines might have done in this type of disaster anyway, but so we know that communications infrastructure is a tremendous problem. If you can't communicate, it's hard to coordinate. And so as our mayors and our partners are out there, our county emergency managers and TEMA employees that are out there, we're relying on radios and satellite phones to make sure that we're connecting the dots. That's just an underlying difficulty. The routes being closed and uncertain. That's why we're working so rapidly to adjudicate which ones are available and open to make sure that we can identify those primary routes for humanitarian assistance. And then the long term, the hard things is about, we take water for granted because our nation's done such a great job of building public water infrastructure. And the type of damages we've seen on these infrastructures is pretty tremendous and not easy to restore or repair. So those three things are the most pressing things on my mind after making sure that we identify and get closure for Tennesseans who are concerned about their loved ones.
The second question that we received from News Channel 5 is, because TDOT is a no debt department and bonds can't be issued for infrastructure, does the state right now have the money to start contracts in the bidding process for repairs?
Yeah, so the state awarded their first emergency contracts on Sunday. I think today's Monday. So the first contracts were awarded yesterday already. So there is cash in the state of Tennessee. They're going to use it and seek federal reimbursement as those things are eligible. The Tennessee Department of Transportation can answer those questions in more detail, but just as context, last year, we had catastrophic flash flooding along the Cherahalla Skyway. You might remember that almost exactly a year ago. Catastrophic flash flooding that washed away a portion of the Cherahalla Skyway. Like this event, within 48 hours, an emergency contract was cut, and within just over 30 days, we reopened the Cherahalla Skyway. So we'll see. It will not be that fast here because this is more widespread and a little more complex, but we are wasting no time doing anything to make sure that we are doing everything we can to restore infrastructure, and we will waste no time doing that.
Those were the two questions we received prior to the news briefing. We do have a couple in the chat, so we're going to address those now. You mentioned the water infrastructure at 2 utilities were completely destroyed. What utilities were those? The
intakes were destroyed. It's Greenville Water System and Newport.
Second question we've received in the chat, outside of confirmed deaths, how many people are confirmed missing? And then also answer that question first.
We have more than 100 people that are confirmed missing that we're working on now. I expect that number will grow.
He also asked, people in our area are really wanting to help now. What's the best way to help now? And what could help in a week and then a month look like?
So, people want to donate things. And I'll tell you, as a 21-year emergency manager, donations are not always helpful. So that's why we ask those communities to identify what their needs are and the extent of those needs, because the impetus to help becomes a little irrational sometimes. People send whatever's on hand, and if it's not a laundered good, it doesn't do a lot of numbers, or it doesn't do a lot of good. So that's why we ask that people focus on those kinds of donations. So cash is the best way to help survivors. It gives them to donate it to reputable organizations. TEMA is not managing these donations. We work with non-governmental, local nonprofit organizations and national nonprofit organizations, and we vector donations there so that those funds that are donated by our fellow Tennesseans through charitable drives that will occur and by our fellow Americans can make it to the hands of the survivors, and they can own their own recovery so that they can buy the things they need when they need it. Someone that's lost their home, getting them a couch doesn't do a lot of good. So folks are doing sanitary things so people can take care of their personal hygiene. Those are great things to do, easy for churches to do. But let's make sure we're supporting those things in the community. In a week, we'll probably need help with cleanup. We'll need people whose homes were maybe not destroyed, but were flooded. We'll need help mucking out. We'll need help beautifying the community. We'll need help in ways that I can't even imagine right now that will surface and make a lot of sense at the time. The immediate things is cash. The longer term things are, once the news cameras go away, this community is still going to need help. And again, this type of disaster is a years and decades kind of recovery.
Is the missing numbers, the individuals that you mentioned for missing individual, are those Tennessee residents?
I don't have I don't know where their driver's license are pinged. So I can't answer that directly.
With water infrastructure down, who pays for that to get back online? I imagine it would be substantial costs.
Will be substantial costs. So we have a federal EM declaration for most of these counties right now. So anything they need to do at this point would be 75% reimbursable by the federal government in terms of doing emergency protective measures. We're working again to get an expedited disaster declaration today, and the federal programs are a reimbursement program, but we'll work with these communities to make sure that they have certainty around restoring their infrastructure.
Can you share anything about reports coming out of impact plastics? Seems like there was some concerning chatter about when employees were told to evacuate.
I'm not aware of what happened at Impact Plastics. I certainly, as I flew the disaster area on Saturday, saw that plant was devastated and could see the evidence far down the Nolichucky River.
Is there a list of NGOs active in the area?
There are, and they're on our website.
The operations at Greene County and Unicoi County hospitals are currently suspended. Are there currently mobile hospitals being set up in those communities to meet urgent medical needs?
We're working on a solution there, especially in Unicoi County, and we'll evaluate the needs in Greene County, working with those local communities.
Do you know why the governor waited until Friday to ask the federal government for help rather than before the storm?
We were not forecast to have the impacts that the coastal hurricane states had.
I'm going to give just another second for anyone on the call to add questions to the chat.
I'll add too on that. That would be probably my advice, right? So the governor's looking for me as his emergency management professional. So I advise the governor on those things. Our forecast did not call for it. We, TEMA, State of Tennessee government, were talking about the potential dangers of this flooding to individuals living along these rivers. And our EOC was activated, and we had people on the ground as the emergency was unfolding already. So if there's any concern around that, that is me.
What objects are most helpful to donate at this point, and what objects should people avoid donating?
Can you ask that again?
What objects are most helpful to donate at this point, and what objects should people avoid donating?
So I would refer to what they're asking for. So on our website, we work with these communities, these community organizations around what they're looking for and what they're hoping to get. And I would focus donations on those things alone. So you can see those on our website. I'm not sure what all of those things are off the top of my head.
Are there any emergency impacts downstream from Douglas Dam?
There was some damage as they released record amounts of water from Douglas Dam in Sevier County. A small number of folks were evacuated by Sevier County Emergency Management and their first responder partners in the county. I spoke to Mayor Waters yesterday and Joe Ayers, their emergency management director, today, and they're evaluating those damages now and the extent of them. So some people were displaced and evacuated. In terms of the scale of this overall disaster, a pretty small number, but it's never a good thing to be rousted from your home.
Why do outage totals not include Carter and Unicoi counties?
You know, that is a question I've asked myself, and I'm not sure.
Maybe this is a TVA question, but are all the dams structurally okay, even though they held on Friday night?
That is a TVA question. I can tell you as someone that's worried about dam integrity and structure and the potential consequences of dam failure, that at this point in talking to our TVA partners, I'm comfortable with where they are in terms of dam safety. I do know there was scouring, and they've talked about this around the Nolichucky Dam, which went to a condition red Friday night, Saturday morning, yellow to red pretty quickly. And we were worried about an imminent failure there. And, we issued evacuation warnings there and multiple methods to get folks that lived along the Nolichucky downstream from the dam out. They have since gone to a condition gray, and they continue to work and assess the damage there around that, and to ensure the integrity of that infrastructure and the safety of those downstream.
Another call for any additional questions. Speaking of that, do you know why Greene County did not send text alerts on Friday night?
I know that we sent text alerts on Greene County via the wireless emergency alert system as soon as we could get that message out after the condition red was issued.
Any additional questions?
Okay, thanks so much. I'm going to turn this back over to Kristen.
One more question. Is it fair to say that flooding was concentrated around Pigeon, Nolichucky, and French Broad rivers?
Yeah, primarily. I mean, there are other areas that had flooding damage, numerous small creeks and tributaries, but that is the concentration of damage.
What kind of federal boots are on the ground?
The Federal Emergency Management Agency, they've already been here because we're still actively recovering from 8 other federal major disaster declarations. So new FCOs here, and we're working together right now along with moving some federal Title 10 assets here in case we need them in the next hours and days. All right, thanks. I'm going to turn this back over to Kristen.
Thank you all for participating in today's news briefing. At this time, we don't have another one scheduled. However, we will evaluate and send that information out as we have been. I am going to go ahead